This morning, we're going to start off with the presidential election of 1860, the guided notes. You will outline your information and place it in, the candidates and election results. The South reacts, the North reacts, President Lincoln reacts. In this space, you will write your information from your PowerPoint presentation. And now let's go directly to it. Bear with me. Technical problems. Election of 1860. And this is who was running: Abraham Lincoln and Hannibal Helms. The presidential candidates of 1860. The presidential election of 1860 featured four main candidates: John C. Breckinridge, Southern Democrat candidate from Kentucky; John Bell, Constitutional Union candidate from Tennessee; Stephanie Douglas, Southern Democrat candidate from Illinois; Abraham Lincoln, Republican candidate from Illinois. So these two were from Illinois, and John C. Breckinridge and John Bell were from two different places, Kentucky and Tennessee. Presidential candidates of 1860. As the election approached, the Democrat Party split over the issue of slavery, and a Southern Democratic Party and a Northern Democratic Party emerged, with each nominating their own candidate. John C. Breckinridge, Southern Democrat candidate from Kentucky, and Stephen A. Douglas, Northern Democrat candidate from Illinois. In 1860 presidential elections results, with the split of the Democrats, it paved the way for an easy victory for the nominee of the other majority political party, the Republican Party, and their candidate, Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln won 39.8% of the popular vote and 180 of the 303 electoral votes. As you can see in the election map above, the outcome of the vote was purely along sectional lines. Slave states supported Breckinridge, which are the green states. All in the South, free states supported Lincoln, the red states, mostly in the North and over in the West. And the border states largely supported Bell, the orange, which is a very small portion. And as you know, Bell was part of the Constitutional Union Party. The South reacts. With the election victory of Lincoln, many of these in the South who didn't trust Lincoln feared that it wouldn't protect their rights. In response, threats by the Southern states to leave the Union, secede, began to materialize into a reality. So we're on the reaction from the South now. A few weeks after the election, on December 20th, 1860, South Carolina held a special convention where they voted to secede from the Union. First one to secede. By February 1861, six other states seceded from the Union: Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas. Then on February 4th, 1861, delegates from the seven seceded states convinced to establish a new union and government, the Confederate State of America. The South reacts. We're still on the South reacts. A vast majority of Southerners warmly welcomed secession from the Union, and upon hearing the news that the Confederate States of America had been created, celebrated by firing off cannons, gathering in streets, shot off fireworks, and rang church bells. Now we're getting ready to go to the North reacts. In the North, however, the reaction to the seven Southern states seceding was mixed. Some abolishists, abolitionists were perfectly okay letting the Southern states leave the Union, while the other abolitionists believed the Union must be preserved. One such abolitionist was the newly elected president, Abraham Lincoln. Now, I want you to note they wanted to preserve the Union. He wanted to preserve the Union. The North reacts. The main issues for Lincoln was no longer the support of oppositions to slavery, but whether in a free government the majority have the right to break up the government whenever they chose. Now that's very important to know. Whether in a free government the minority have the right to break up the government whenever they choose. President Lincoln reacts. Now we're at President Lincoln reacts. In his inauguration address, President Lincoln stated that the secession would not be allowed, and he committed to the protection of the federal property and enforcing the laws of the United States in the South, which included the states that had seceded and formed their own nation. On the day after his inauguration, President Lincoln received word from the commander at Fort Sumter, a fort on a small island just outside of Charleston, South Carolina. So Fort Sumter is in South Carolina, that the Confederates were demanding surrender of the fort and that the fort was low on supplies. The event that ensued shortly thereafter would ignite the most deadly war in U.S. history, the Civil War.